Hello, sixth graders. These next set of notes are what I call lecture notes. I have them on the screen right now so you can see them, but this is really the only spot you'll be able to see them is in this video. And if you want these for a later date, you need to write them down in a notebook paper because I will not be posting these notes. So these are, again, what I call lecture notes. So the students that are in class here, I'll be saying these out loud and they'll be writing down what I'm saying. And this is just a good skill to learn as you get older how to take notes. So when you're writing notes, in this format, you really don't have to worry about complete sentences. The big thing is just getting the ideas down on paper so you have them as a resource later on. When I'm talking about the Dakota, I split them what I'm talking about into the 4 different seasons, and I'm going to talk about some of the different things they did during those seasons. So you can see on your screen, starting with fall or autumn, this was a big time to prepare for the winter. Because winter, as you know, in northern Minnesota and the Dakotas and the northern part of the United States, winter can be tough. There's not a lot of food and things like that. So they have to prepare for that in the winter. So the men would move to the hunting grounds. And because they need to start hunting food to have store it for the winter. So when it came time to the hunt, the chief would tell them each day where they were going to hunt, because they wanted to switch where they were going to be hunting. So they did not want to overhunt an area, because if you overhunt an area, you stay in that area too long for hunting, eventually you're going to wipe out the animal population. So they would rotate where they would hunt. And one thing that's very important to the Dakota is the idea of Ohan Washte, or generosity. So after a hunter made his first kill, he would share his meat with everybody. So very important, that Ohan Washte, generosity. So during the fall and autumn, that's what the men would be responsible for, is making sure they're harvesting enough meat for the winter season. While the men are doing that, the women begin the process of preparing the teepee. The women were responsible for the teepee. If you remember one thing we read about with Dakota children back last year in 5th grade, as young children, girls would learn with models of teepees how to make it, how to take care of it. Then the women would also finish harvesting any food that from their crops to either dry out or store for the winter. And the same thing that happened with the men and the food that they would hunt, the animals they would harvest. A lot of it would be either dried with smoke or left out in the sun to have for the winter time. And during late summer, early autumn, the Dakota would also harvest wild rice. So then come winter, the men would continue to hunt and fish because you need to always have that fresh source of food. And this time of year, it's ice fishing, of course. The women would take care of the children and the cooking, so providing the food. And if they had fresh food from whether the animal like deer, bison, or fish, they'd cook that, or they'd use stuff that they had saved from the fall hunt. And they'd also, any fruits or vegetables they harvested during the fall, they'd hopefully spread them out over the winter. The Dakota would always try to set up their village close to a source of water, a lake or something like that, just for ice fishing, or you need water to survive, of course. For those Dakota villages, this says, which were located in the middle of the forest. Not all of the Dakota villages were located in forests. Some were out in the plains. But typically, there would be a large teepee in the middle of their village called the council teepee. And the council teepee was not a teepee that the Dakota used as a home. The council teepee was a place where elders would meet to discuss things, make decisions, maybe host celebrations. But the council teepee was very important. And as I mentioned earlier, they would eat sun-dried meats from the fall hunt, preserved fruits and vegetables, and things like that. So then after the winter came spring. The women would be responsible for getting the sugar camp set up and preparing the bark house. Again, this only pertains to the Dakota that were close to maple trees. If you're out in the prairie, you're not going to be doing setting up a sugar camp. So those that had the option of going to a sugar camp, the women would set it up by getting the bark house ready. Then they would move the village to the sugar camp. And once the winter thaw started and the sap was running the maple trees, the women would begin the maple sugaring process. And that was in your other set of chapter 3 notes. And also in late spring, when the ground was thawed out enough, the women would begin planting crops to grow food throughout the summer and into fall. And as you can see, the men would hunt and fish. And in the summer, the women would start to harvest their crops and then plant new ones because they wanted to plant and harvest as many crops as they could throughout the summer into the fall to not only have enough to eat during those seasons, but also to have plenty during the winter months. And the men would continue to hunt and fish. Now, through all this talk that I've done here, one thing I want to point out is children were expected to help. They were taught, if they were a girl, they'd be taught from their mothers on how to set up the teepees, the bark houses, things like that. And the boys would be taught from their fathers how to hunt, how to fish, how to be brave, all of those type of things. So this was a real quick rundown of some of the things they do season by season. I would suggest that if you forgot any of this or you need time, you can just pause the video and write this stuff down as you go. Please let me know if you have any questions. Eventually, this information here could be on a quiz. Thanks for listening. Take care. Bye.